This is Good Morning San Diego.
All right, a major settlement could bring changes for San Diego home buyers and real estate agents. Here now to weigh in on the lawsuit and how it will impact agents and home costs is licensed California real estate broker Mark Powell. Mark, good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning, Jason.
Okay, for those who are not in the know, let's set the table. Talk to us about the lawsuit. How did it come about and what happened?
The lawsuit was brought upon by a group of sellers who said that essentially there's a conspiracy to keep commissions high. Even when the market was low, the commissions were the same. When the market was booming, the commissions were the same. So the initial lawsuit, because it's an antitrust lawsuit, was over $5 billion. That's with a B. The settlement was $412 million, but offering absolutely no guilt.
And this is something that the National Association of Realtors went along with. And the question, we were just sitting here talking about it, who's defending NAR and why would they agree to something like this?
Well, they did have a defense, but the only thing that they had to rule on is, was it an antitrust violation? And they determined, yes, it was. But the big thing about it is going to change the way agents do real estate and moving forward. So the way we used to do it is, let's say, you're going to sell a house, you're going to say what we were talking about, how much you're going to charge, let's say 5%. And of that 5% you're going to give me, I'm going to give 2.5% to another agent to bring in some buyers. Well, you can no longer do that. So you can no longer offer compensation from the listing agent to the buyer's agent. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to want to buy a house and the buyer is going to have to pay their agent. So can you imagine if you say, I want to buy a house, and say, okay, how much is it going to cost me? 2.5% of the sales price, and if it's an $800,000 house, that's going to be $20,000 or more. So where are you going to get $20,000 to pay for that?
Exactly, because we're in a place where we're talking about affordable housing. This makes it even harder to get into a place if you're a buyer.
Well, the commissions were always negotiable.
Right.
And rarely do you ever see a 6% commission where it's going to be 3 for the listing agent and 3 for the buyer's agent. But now you're going to have to fill out a form. It's called a buyer-broker agreement. So all the buyers will have to have a contract just like the sellers. So you come to me and you say, I want to buy a house. I go, okay, sign this form and I'm going to charge 2%. I'm going to try and collect it from the seller, but if I can't get it from the seller, if I get 1% for the seller, you're on the hook for the other 1%. Now, where are buyers going to get this money? And so what the buyers might end up doing is just saying, well, I don't have the money to pay you. I'll just go straight to the listing agent. Now you have something called a dual agency, where the listing agent is representing both the buyer and the seller. And that's the whole reason why I had a buyer's agent, because the buyers weren't being represented. So it's going to be it has potential of being a big mess moving forward.
And if a buyer decides that well, I'll just represent myself. Now that buyer is exposed to all kinds of legal liabilities. That's why you use a good buyer's agent.
Jason, when a person is in a real estate transaction and everything's going well and everyone's happy and you get the bottle of champagne at the end, that's good. But when things go wrong, you want a qualified realtor on your team, on your side, representing you. That's why you have buyer's agents and listing agents. You wouldn't have the prosecution be the defense attorney. Right. That would just be ridiculous. So sometimes that kind of a situation occurs in real estate transactions.
So now if I'm an agent and I'm sitting on the sidelines, I'm trying to find business in San Diego County right now, and I've got a couple of buyers I'm working with, what do I tell them?
But they're going to, in July, they're going to be mandated to fill out that form. This is not an option. You have to fill out the buyer-broker agreement. That's part of the settlement. You can no longer list the commission on the residential purchase agreement. You can no longer offer compensation on something called the multiple listing service. That's where you find all the information. You have to negotiate your commission with the buyer or with the seller outside of those two venues. You can't use the purchase contract or the MLS anymore. And the average realtor only sells 2 homes a year. Mm-hmm. Look, we're not $1 million listings. We're not those guys you see making $200,000 commissions. You know, that the average agent just makes what, $40,000, $50,000 a year, if they're lucky.
And this is going to make it real hard.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in and sharing with us. We appreciate it, Mark.
Thank you for having me.